pain. I wake up every morning, I'm in pain. I go to work in pain. You know how many times I wanted to just give up? How many times I've thought about ending it?
The only way you're ever going to get to the other side of this journey is you have got to suffer to grow. To grow, you must suffer. You have to make that a tattoo on your fucking brain so when that hard time comes again, you don't forget it.
We have to be right in the middle of the action because we're the warriors. And without some challenge, without some damn war to fight, then the warrior may as well be dead, Stallion.
When something sucks so bad in life, very few people want to go back. They're happy they graduated. I realized I'm the same way. I don't want to go back. I have to go back. I must go back.
Everything that hurts you, find a way to overcome it. Everything that you feel is difficult for you, find a way to still do it.
I had to invent a guy that didn't exist. I had to invent a guy that can take any pain, any suffering, any kind of judgment, be called nigger, be called whatever the f in the world, and be able to stand in the fucking room and say, go f yourself. I had to build this callous mind, and I built it through suffering. I built it through downright and just crushing myself. If it was raining outside at 3 o'clock in the fucking morning, if it was snowing, the first instinct is don't go out there and do shit. My instinct was, we gotta fucking go out there. Anything that was fucking horrible in my life that I would normally say no, that was inhumane to most people, I had to go do it.
Everything worthwhile is uphill. You see, every dream that you've ever had, it's all uphill. If you have a great relationship with somebody, you had to work on it. It's uphill. If you've built a wonderful business, guess what? It was uphill. And the only way that you can go uphill is to be intentional. Nobody ever accidentally went uphill. You've never talked to a successful person and said, how did you get to the top of the mountain? And then look at you and say, I have no idea. If they're at the top of the mountain, they know how they got there. Because they had to have effort. It took energy. It took time. Everything worthwhile is uphill.
You're gonna have to fucking suffer, man. To go from this fat, insecure motherfucker to one of the best guys on the planet Earth, this journey is gonna take something that is gonna be incomprehensible to most people.
If you're gonna do it, do it. Say what you can do what you say. If you can't do it, don't say you can do it. Don't over-leverage yourself. Don't over-leverage a decision and then jump in and kind of dip a toe. I think I'll try it out. No, think if you're going to try it out beforehand, but when it's time to go, dive. Finish it. Find out.
You have to suffer. You have to live in it. You have to be comfortable in it. And then maybe some of that shit will help you a little bit along the way.
But if you live this on a daily basis and you know how to calm your mind down, the self-talk will help. All that stuff will help. But usually we react. We have pain, we have suffering, we react. And we react about, get the out of here. We gotta go. It's those people who are able to control that feeling of flight and say, no, there's a way through this. It's not gonna be here forever. I'm not cold right now. I went through 3 of them. I'm not cold now. I'm in a nice warm studio with you. You gotta think about that. This shit's gonna end. It's gonna end, but we don't know that. We don't think that. At that time, it's gonna last forever. And then you get to sit back on Friday with everybody walking across the, back on the grinder, all the 16, 17, 18 guys that graduated Hell Week, and you get a chance to watch these guys victorious. And then you get the chance to think about that. You take that hot, warm shower, first thing that comes to your fucking mind is, why the fuck did I quit? So what keeps me going? I've quit several things. I know what's on the back end of fucking quitting. And it's a lifetime of thinking about, why the fuck did I do that? And I ain't doing that no more.
You are one decision, one relationship, one thought, one emotion, one meeting away from a completely different life. But unless you believe that, and then you program your reticular activating system in your brain to find those things, you will never have them happen to you.
If you can take it, you can make it. All right, you train, you fight way harder than those other guys, and you win. You get out from under. You can do this, Lou. Just gotta believe you can.
We often forget how hard we are, but you gotta reflect back. Take a couple seconds, reflect. I've been through this, I've been through that. And then remind yourself, I'm a bad motherfucker. And then you can get through that. But if you don't believe it, you haven't endured, you're just blowing smoke, man. And you're not gonna be able to get through anything.
The only way to become more successful than most people is to be willing to do something most people aren't willing to do. It sucks, you're tired. Everybody says that you're leaving your friends behind, leaving your family behind, betraying your culture, betraying whatever expectation it is that they have on you. You need to do something that most people aren't willing to do.
But I never thought it was humanly possible to do what I did. I went 70 miles. I was at 100%. What I thought was 100%. I went 31 more miles after being in the worst physical shape I've ever been in my life. And all that pain and suffering and thing was going through my fucking body as I sat in that tub and the waters hit me. And it was the most amazing feeling of accomplishment. And I didn't want to be numb. I didn't want people to give me drugs and to numb this fucking pain. I did this.
If you are consistent and you have none of the other attributes, you still might be successful. It's very tough for people who are consistent to not be successful. In my opinion, it's one of the most difficult of the virtues for humans to do because we're so attracted to novelty.
The amount of suffering that you understand, the amount of pain that you've gone through makes you appreciate the happiness and the beautiful moments.
The most important question to ask is, what pain do you want in your life? What are you willing to struggle for? Anything worthwhile is going to require some degree of pain and struggle. So, if you're oriented toward the pain and the struggle, you're probably going to be more aligned with what you're capable of accomplishing rather than if you just orient toward the pleasures.
You know, I get asked a lot, what is the secret of achieving goals? How do you really quantitate it? How do you put it down so every day you know if you're going in that direction of success or maybe you're altered? And people are like, man, is it your genetics? Is it your potential? Is it, when it comes down to it, success has nothing to do with potential. It's all about the perseverance of somebody. That will override any endeavor. If you throw shit against the wall, eventually something will stick. You guys that have this potential, don't have this potential, that shit dies. What continues to last forever is a perseverance to always show up. That's what champions do. Every single champion is the same as every ordinary person. The only differential is that they show up to the event every single day. They see failure as a learning curve. They welcome failure. You learn more from failure than you ever will from success. So showing up and getting knocked on your ass, finding intestinal fortitude, stand back up and re-face that endeavor is going to be the overriding factor that makes a difference.
To be successful at anything, the truth is you don't have to be special. You just have to be what most people aren't. Consistent, determined, and willing to work for it. No shortcuts.
And the feeling I had every morning, I looked in the mirror, was horrible. And I didn't want to feel like that anymore. And how I felt was a kid going nowhere, a kid that was scared. And most kids will accept that and look for help. But the best thing that happened to me, no one helped me. No one felt sorry for me.
It's hard when you're young to wake up in the off season at 6 a.m. to go train and work out, knowing that all your friends are sleeping in and eating pancakes. It's hard when you're on your way to practice, weighed down with all your gear, and it's 90 degrees out and all the other kids are at the pool or at the beach, and your body is already completely exhausted from workouts and 2-a-days. It's hard to throw, catch, block, and tackle, and hit kids when they're way bigger and way more developed than you, only to go home that night bruised and battered and strained, but knowing you have to show up again the next day for just the chance to try again. But understand this, life is hard.
And that's all I want people to do is realize that you have to struggle. You have to struggle. The bigger the struggle, the bigger the peace. The bigger the suffering, the more peace. People right now, maybe listen to this, they'll be motivated to go run. If it's cold somewhere where they're at, a lot of motherfuckers will shut that door, go back inside. That's motivation. It comes and go as how you feel. If you and your wife are good, if you and your kids are good, if you're good at work, you're motivated. I like a whose life is imploded, ain't got in life and says, still gotta get after it today, man. That's what it's about. So that's when you move from motivation to driven to obsessed. And I want people to realize once you get to this person over here, the driven, obsessed part, you're unstoppable.
Because you don't achieve worthwhile goals quickly or easily. They take time. They take struggle. They take relentless pursuit day in and day out. That's what it takes.
You don't have to feel good about it. You just have to keep going. The feeling will pass, but you will remain. You are greater than your feelings. Going to bed late and waking up early to work for a few days won't kill you. You're not going to burn out. You're doing what it takes. If you're one of those people that push work-life balance, just remember, the people who like working a lot don't care. I've never regretted trying harder at anything ever. Hard times last long, but an epic story feels like a lifetime.
Several people live to be 100 years old, and they have great lives, and they have great kids. Their kids go to college and all sorts of stuff. But somewhere in their life, there was a point where they had a decision to make. They can go left or right on this path. Left was the easy route. Right was the hard route. A lot of people take the easy route. And they had a good life that way, but the better life was going to the right side. And you may have 20 years of pain and suffering to get past it, but a lot of us die never truly starting our journey. And I would tell this young person, you gotta start your journey. It may suck, but it will come out the other side where you're coasting.
If there's one muscle that you can flex, it's learning to do the same thing over and over again. Like one of the values that we had at Gym Launch is do the boring work, because boring is what makes you rich.
Man, just cut out the bullshit. Cut out the bullshit. Just get to the weeds of that. You are f***ing yourself up by not examining your brain. You're not examining your brain. Mess is it. That's done. You examine your f***ing brain, and that takes some hard work and suffering. If you're not willing to do that, I'm sorry.
And it seems like there's no way to do that as a bystander.
No, you can't watch it, man.
Yeah.
You gotta get out there and be like, oh, this hurts. This hurts real fucking bad. I don't think this is smart. And then, guess what happens? The body will adjust.
So after games, I'm like, hey, 𝐒𝐫, like, why were you in the gym for so long? He's like, because I saw you come in, and I wanted you to know that it doesn't matter how hard you work, that I'm willing to work harder than you.
So don't believe the lies, believe the truth. And the truth is, you have time. You have the skill, you have the knowledge and the support and the willpower and the discipline to get it done.
People don't get it. There's great joy in the grind. Great joy in the suffer. It totally cleanses your body out, man, of any kind of hate. Makes you grow up.
Listen to the pain. It's both history teacher and fortune teller. Pain teaches us who we are. Sometimes it's so bad we feel like we're dying. But we can't really live till we die a little, can we?
There's a saying, when the devil ignores you, then you know you're doing something wrong. You know, the devil goes, oh no, leave him alone, man, he's my favorite. Don't you bother him. Yeah. Conversely, when the devil comes at you, maybe it's because you're trying to do something right.
I'm saying start to learn the mind is powerful. It's powerful, man. It's unbelievable.
But if people need a thing to get them going, right? They need a thing. Right. They need a goal. Sometimes the first step is the hardest.
Mm-hmm. I had to figure out I wasn't going to be a punk kid all my life. So the only way I could turn it around was to suffer. I had to build calluses in my brain the same way I built calluses on my hands.
If you quit that easy, you never really wanted it that bad. Hopelessness is a state of mind. Don't live your entire life hopeless and unfulfilled.
That is an interesting thing about the mind, is that you can find inspiration, and when you find inspiration, when you get charged up, all of a sudden you have energy.
It takes 1 second of energy to steal everybody's, and then you have all the energy you need. That's all you need. You need to look at someone's eyes. You know how it is when you fight somebody and you broke that mother. He's like, oh God, man, I don't want to go back to the next round. And you feel like, my God, I can fight all day. I can fight all day long. That's what taking souls is. But you have to have the will the heart, the courage to go that distance when you're exactly jacked up, you have nothing left to give, and give more.
And I looked back again and learned from what I learned in sports. In my case, in bodybuilding. It's all about the hard work that you put in. Work your ass off. There is no magic pill. There is no magic out there. You cannot get around. You have to work and work and work. I can tell you, or to do something for 45 minutes to an hour a day to improve. If it is physically improve, or if it is mentally to improve. Imagine you read 1 hour a day about history. How much you will learn after 365 hours in 1 year.
Without pain, without sacrifice, we would have nothing.
I learned how to control my adrenals. If you know how you get that fight or flight response when you get to move real quick.
Yeah.
And you know, I started learning the mind a lot, how to get myself jacked extremely fast, like in a horrible environment when everybody's miserable. I learned how to really find strength in the misery. When everybody's suffering, everybody's all poopy pants and their mentality's down and everything, I started just like, my God, this is where I shine. And I started using all that misery for tons and tons of drive and motivation to then lead people further. Because you can get a lot of power through misery. And once people see that, my God, Goggins is fucking going, then everybody says, Roger that. Let me get my and go too. So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer, you will have a crew of people following you along the way.
Quitting guarantees the failure. Once you quit, it rules out any chance of succeeding. The mere waking up every day, putting the next foot in front of the next foot, at least keeps you in the game.
We have the ability to go in such a space if you're willing to suffer, and I mean suffer. Your brain and your body, once connected together, can do anything.
Everyone does a few reps when the burn starts and they stop. No one goes the extra mile and keeps going. Like no one's in here right now. Why? Because it's Saturday evening, everyone's going to party, no one's in here, just me. You know, no one goes the extra mile. The thing about traffic jams, guys, there are no traffic jams in the last mile of the race. It's just you and your shadow. In the beginning, everybody's there. All the pretenders and the contenders, they're all there. But the last yard of life, the last mile of the journey, ain't nobody but you and your shadow. Traffic jams don't exist that far, because everyone else started giving up.
I don't care what you're gonna do, but go out there and make something of yourself for God's sake. Be an honest person and work and get to the top of whatever it is that you want to get to the top of.
In fact, the ability to set goals and to create plans for their accomplishment is the master skill of success. If all you learned in life, all you learned in school, was the ability to be a continuous goal setter and a continuous planner, day and night, planning, organizing, planning, writing, thinking about what you're trying to accomplish, you'll accomplish more in a year or 2 years than most people accomplish in 10 years or an entire lifetime.
What I realized is for me to become the man I wanted to become, I saw myself as the weakest person God ever created. But I never blamed God for anything he did to me. So I wanted to change that to be the hardest man ever created. Am I that? I don't know, but you had to have a goal. And my goal when I was sitting there, not going to school, being bullied, having no self-esteem, my goal was the only person that's gonna turn this person around is me. The only way I can turn it around is put myself through the worst things possible a human being can ever endure. And that'd be the only way that I can build this brain to handle anything that comes in front of it, callousing my mind through pain and suffering.
How can I deal with the fact that this is painful for me? And the answer is, the fact that it is painful is the reason that it's working.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't you stepping out, everybody else that has to try and step out into this new life faces this same thing too. Every single person does. That's why most people don't do it.
Yeah.
Like this is what hard feels like. And this is why most people don't win. So continuing to push through and almost seeing that level of discomfort as a signal, it's like a way marker that's been planted in the ground. Yes, more this way. Because if it was all just super easy, well, how are you going to get anything different to what everybody else has got if you do the same thing that everybody else does? And one of the best selectors for people not doing a thing is discomfort. So the route that has a lot of discomfort down it, usually on the other side of that, ends up with something which is valuable.
Even the hardest men, in times of suffering, what we do is we forget how hard we really are. Because that's what suffering is. Suffering is a test. That's all it is. Suffering is the true test of life.
Other than death, all failure is psychological.
A moment of pain is worth a lifetime of glory. Remember that.
You're not afraid of failing. You're afraid of what other people will think of you if you fail. But if you're afraid of that, imagine what they think of you when you aren't even trying. Oh yeah, they aren't.
One thing we don't do is we don't have a new norm. My new norm is you get up every fucking morning at 4 o'clock and you suffer. This is your new norm. That became my new fucking life. Most people want to get out of it. I said, no, this is your new life. This is who you are. Your new norm is you wake up and you suffer. And I started realizing if that's my mentality, this ain't hard anymore. Right. Your new norm is you wake up, you get in the fucking cold water, you get a beer till this fucking done. Whenever they say you're out, you get out. So my new norm, so I do that now today. My new norm now is if I'm doing a 200-mile run, your new norm now, man, is you fucking are doing 200 miles.
The Roger that mentality.
That's it, man.
I think to myself, man, I'm afraid of doing this. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm afraid of what this person's going to think about me. Because if I were to be able to fail in quiet, in complete isolation, then I wouldn't care. And then I think, well, what if I don't succeed in public? What do they think then? Nothing, right? They don't think about me at all. And so obviously that comes from the perspective of seeking to gain approval and attention from others anyway. So it's like, listen, if you're insecure, which everybody is, let's be real, you might as well use the insecurity to get something out of it. One of my favorite things about entrepreneurship is like, use what you've got. And so a lot of people think that they need to fix their conditions in order to get like the perfect conditions before they start. But the perfect condition is whatever one you're in, because it gives you whatever assets you have. That's the cards that you're dealt. And so you just play the hand. And a lot of people have great cards. It's like, man, I'm so afraid of it. It's like, use it. It's like, I have nothing. What makes you very dangerous because you have nothing to lose.
That is an interesting thing about the mind, is that you can find inspiration, and when you find inspiration, when you get charged up, all of a sudden you have energy.
We have the ability to go in such a space if you're willing to suffer, and I mean suffer. Your brain and your body, once connected together, can do anything. And this 30 miles was the life-changing moment. I was out of it. I was in the worst pain in my entire life. I was, to me, on the brink of death. And I was able to chunk this 30 damn miles into small pieces. I was so driven, and I'm not gonna say motivated, because motivation's crap. Motivation comes and goes. When you're driven, whatever's in front of you will get destroyed.
Heroes and villains always have the same backstory, pain. The difference is what they choose to do about it. Villain says, the world hurt me, I'll hurt it back. The hero says, the world hurt me, I'm not gonna let it hurt anybody else. Heroes use pain, villains are used by it.
Right. Once you get going, it's easier to keep going.
That's it, man.
Once you get going, it's easier to keep showing up.
It is. It is. You have to get past that hurdle.
Yeah.
And once you get past it, man, you're flying. Search your mind, search your abilities, and you'll find it. But if you're not looking for it, you won't find it. So you got to go start your journey. And the journey starts with you finding, why the hell am I here on this planet Earth? Why am I here? And if you don't know that, you will live the rest of your life searching, always asking the question, why?
Fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. And so it looks like this ocean that you're going to step into and drown. But as soon as you step into it, you realize it was not that deep at all, and you can keep walking through it. And I just love that visual, because a lot of times when it's like we have this anxiety around this big decision we have to make, if you actually take the step and realize that it's not death, you're not going to drown immediately. There's plenty of other steps you can take from there, even if you get a little wet.
The fear is never reaching your potential.
That's it.
That always falling short, always quitting before you're done, always procrastinating, always not doing the right thing. And then one day you're an old man
Yep.
And you look back and go, God, I could have been great.
Yep.
It could have been great.
I never forget one time I was running by a graveyard when I was just trying to become, I was fat. And I ran by a graveyard and I looked out there and I have all these epiphanies, man. I have all these moments of like, it's crazy, man, of just thought. Cause I'm always by myself and I'm always in deep thought about how to be better. And I look out there, I'm like, man, I wonder how many of you motherfuckers in there and just are so upset with how you lived your life and just regret how you lived it. And I'm running a 300-pound man thinking, man, don't fucking die like this, bro. Don't die like this. So people wonder where this comes from me. It comes from such deep thought of trying to see what this is all about. What is this life all about? What am I all about? Why am I here? You know, I had to find purpose.
And most times, many individuals make their decisions with their feelings. And when you have to make those decisions with your mind. Every single morning, if you can't get out of your beds and you choose not to win, you listen to your feelings. If you chose to get out of bed and you said, there's a win for me, that's your mind.
The only way you're ever going to get to the other side of this journey is you have got to suffer to grow. To grow, you must suffer.
There's a moment when every boy realizes no one's coming to save him. And that's when he becomes a man. And some boys never get there and stay children forever.
People are missing exactly what went on with David Goggins. Why don't you smile? I do. But I figured something out. That's why you'll never hear me say I'm missing something. I found it years ago. You find it in the suck. You find it in the suck, and you find it repeatedly in the suck, to the point where you know exactly who you are. Most people are missing something because they don't know who they are. They never examine themselves. They've never done this experiment on themselves. The lab rat, we're all lab rats, but you're also the scientist. You create your own self.
Do you want to be here right now? And I don't mean like here. I mean here in a cosmic sense, bro. Like, existence could be beautiful or it could be ugly. But that's on you.
How do I know which one's for me?
Dream. You gotta find out the future you're fighting for. Sometimes you gotta close your eyes and really envision that, bro.
It's 1 a.m. I'm going for my third workout. Do I want to go to the gym? Absolutely not. I'd rather, lay in my house and sit in the movie theater and watch movies. But, to be the best, you got to work overtime. To be the best, you got to work overtime.
So what's the great divide of human beings? Who are you on those days you don't want to do things? It's easy to conquer when it's good weather. You got good sleep. Work's going good. The family's good. You feel great. Your body's not injured. Those are the easy days to conquer. But who are you on those fucking days when all hell's broke loose? Your body's f***ed up. You're sore. You're depressed. You're miserable. You're not the favorite person at school. You might be getting bullied. You might be falling behind in life. Who are you on those days when shit's all f***ed up? That's the great divide. Those people who get up on those days when everything's f***ed up and still grind, that's the separator right there. Stay hard.
all of man's problems arise because he cannot sit by himself in a room for 30 minutes alone.
Mm.
And it's very true. I always needed to be stimulated. And when the iPhone came along, boredom was dead. I would never be bored again. Even if I'm standing in line, I'm on my iPhone, and I thought it was great. And when I was a kid, I used to try and overclock my brain, be like, how many thoughts can I think at once? The answer is only one, but I would try to think multiple thoughts at once. And I was proud of that. I was proud that my brain was always running, this engine was always moving.
So I got an email the other day. This guy I was talking about, he's struggling to get up. Wants to go to the gym and start grinding early in the morning. I said, when I was 24, I had the same condition, man. I had the same problem. So I started studying it. The more I studied it, I came with this crazy conclusion. I was just being a bitch. When I say bitch, it's not gender specific. It's a mindset. It means weak, soft, feeling sorry for yourself. Get your ass up and lace them up.
The superpower of learning to be alone and enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's critical, and I do think that these times where you just think about things, just be alone and think about things, are so rare these days. And I think during those rare times is when you really get to understand what you actually believe or don't believe.
If you set out a path towards a goal, which you want to do because you need a goal and you need a path, because that provides you with positive emotion, right? So you set up something as valuable, so that implies a hierarchy. You set up something as valuable. You decide that you're going to do that instead of other things, so that's kind of a sacrifice, because you're sacrificing everything else to pursue that. And then you experience a fair bit of positive emotion and meaning as you watch yourself move towards the goal. And so the implication of that is the better the goal, the more full and rich your experience is going to be when you pursue it. So that's one of the reasons that's one of the reasons for developing a vision and for fleshing yourself out philosophically, because you want to aim at the highest goal that you can manage. Okay, so you do that, and then what you'll find is that as you move towards the goal, there are certain things that you have to accomplish that frighten you. You identify something that someone is avoiding that they need to do because they're afraid. You have them voluntarily confront it. And so you break it down. What you try to do, if you're a behavior therapist, is you break down the thing they're avoiding into smaller and smaller pieces until you find a piece that's small enough so they'll do it. And it doesn't really matter, as long as they start it, then they can put the next piece on and the next piece. And what happens is they don't get less afraid, exactly, they get braver. They get it's like there's more of them. And here's why. So imagine you do something new, and that's informative, right? There's information in the action, and then you can incorporate that information and turn it into a skill and turn it into a transformation of your perceptions. So there's more to you because you've tried something new. So that's one thing. But the second thing is, and there's good biological evidence for this now, that if you put yourself in a new situation, then new genes code for new proteins and build new neural structures and new nervous system structures. Same thing happens to some degree when you work out, right? Because your muscles are responding to the load, but your nervous system does that too. So you imagine that there's a lot of potential you locked in your genetic code. And then if you put yourself in a new situation, then the stress, that's the situational stress that's produced by that particular situation, unlocks those genes and then builds new parts of you. And so that's very cool, because who knows how much there is locked inside of you.
Whether you like it or not, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, a lot of us are at war with ourselves. And within that war, you have several battles. Those battles are basically choices. No, I'm not talking about a war that you might find in the Coliseum. I'm talking about a war that's in your brain. That war exists because life has so many choices. Within those choices, you gotta make right decisions. But you know what? Yeah. When the alarm goes off in the morning, you have to wake up. Don't wake up, don't worry about that. When you're in school, you know what, that man, it's too hard to study. So don't study. You know what? Don't eat healthy because you don't have to. So guess what? When you fail, don't blame your mom, don't blame your dad, don't blame teachers. One person you have to blame is yourself.
Finish what you started. Finish what you started. Okay? I know it's getting tough. You're tired. It feels impossible. It's getting harder. But finish what you started. Don't forget why you even started in the first place. But you must finish what you started. Everybody said you wouldn't finish. Everybody counted you out. Don't you dare prove them right. Here, finish what you started. Don't give up on yourself. You can do it. Okay?
For we all know what's right and wrong in a sedative state. We all know when we're relaxed exactly the person we want to become. The question is, do we believe we can become it? Without that belief, every journey will run into a debate. That debate is when pain starts to fill the body. You weigh the temporary pain versus a lifetime of pride. What are you gonna do? How bad do you want it? There's two options: to continue forward, pushing upward. And if you do, that dream is giving birth, and forever you will live in the reality of it. If you stop, quit, throw in the towel, I promise you there's no distance you can travel far enough to ever find that dream again, for it is dead.
Wonder, how did you become this? How did you become so vulnerable? How are you doing a podcast now when you were this kid? You overcame things. You fought them. And now this is what happens. This is on the other side of overcoming. When you overcome yourself. All those things you once cowered from, you were afraid of, when you face them eye to eye every day, you become very, very powerful when you overcome yourself.
There is a way out, that there is a way to do more, to get more, to obtain more. But I personally don't want to lose all that I've been able to get. So I need to make sure that I do everything to keep it. So I can't be content. So there is an understanding, but I refuse to click on the switch of,
So even if you have more money than you'll ever spend for the rest of your life, that's not what it's about.
No.
It's about the inspiring people and the influence and constantly giving back and moving forward in a positive way. And the only way you can do that is to stay active.
It's the story, man.
Yeah.
You know, we're all writing a book. What's your book look like? What does your fucking book look like? Like your life is a book. You got a bunch of chapters in your book, but when they close that book, how good was the book? How good was your book? What was the ending to your book? If the ending to my book can be so amazing because of all that was done, not the money, all that was accomplished, the first to do, the man that did this, he caused the merger between this. Because of his commitment and growth to this, the communities were then given this, made education this, changed the way the schooling was blah, 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 gave books, gave computers, gave all of the things that can be associated with you and your existence become a part of the chapters in your book. So my drive is about my book.
How much more do you want from me?
More.
How much more successful do you want me to be?
More successful.
How many records can my records break?
More records.
But I'm the best.
Monday, get better. Tuesday, get better. Wednesday, get better, right? And you do that over a period of time, not like 1 month or 2 months. I mean, it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And then you can get to where you want to go. This year, I'm going to get better at that. Next year, this, and then so forth and so on. And then patiently, I was able to catch them.
Life is not easy. It is not. Don't try to make it that way. Life's not fair. It never was. It isn't now, and it won't ever be. Do not fall into the trap, the entitlement trap, of feeling like you're a victim. You are not. Get over it and get on with it. And yes, most things are more rewarding when you break a sweat to get them.
Whatever I'm afraid to do, I do it. And that's how it is. I was afraid for the Roy fight. I was scared to fight again. I was 100 pounds overweight. I was however old, 54, 53. And I said, let's do it. Anything I'm afraid of, I confront it. And that's my personality.
What would your life be like if you made use of all the potential that you were offered? That's the optimistic question, because you can test it out. Say, okay, well, I'll just try that for a year. I'm gonna do the best I can at everything that offers itself to me, just as an experiment. And then I'm gonna see, well, is my life better or is my life worse? It's like, you try it for a year, you think, it's actually better. My friendships are better, my family's better, I'm less anxious, I'm more positively oriented, I'm less resentful and bitter and jealous and angry. You know, I'm more physically healthy. It's like, hey, great, and you're not that good at it. It's like, what happens if you did that for 5 years?
Yeah, that's a good addiction.